How you doing? I hope you're doing well. Now I'm sure there's a solid 12% of you watching this video that actually spent the minimum $300 to play this game. I'm sure there's an even smaller percent that took a trip on a pirate ship to not spend $300 on the Zuckercuck 3 to play this game. I'm sure the rest of you either watched a walkthrough or did not care to engage with this game at all. And I'm not here to encourage you to spend your hard-earned cash on a trend, and I'm not here to tell you that this is the best Arkham game. It's not comparable. It's a different medium, a different experience. But I am here to break down why Batman Arkham Shadow, to me, is by far the most emotional, thoughtful, and compelling Batman Arkham story to date. Camouflage Studios have created a Batman tale that not only is a perfect follow-up to Origins, that not only enriches every single narrative element of the previous games, but is told a Batman narrative that will stick with me for years to come. Not to be one of those cliches who's like, I tried not to make this video, but I had to. But yeah, I tried not to make this video. Playing VR makes me feel nauseous most of the time, so I was really hoping I wasn't going to be compelled to do so, but yet here I am, compelled, passionate, and ready to talk about the best Arkham story that you probably won't play. But before we get into it, you remember that episode of Justice League Unlimited where Batman has no idea what to get Superman for his birthday, so he gives him cash? What do you get for the man who has everything? Well, hell, Bruce should not have been a dickhead and should have instead considered gifting Clark something from Holzkern. Sunglasses, rings, necklaces, bracelets, watches, and more. Holzkern is a watch and jewelry company brand for both men and women. And I'm happy they wanted to sponsor this video because I'm always trying out different rings, different necklaces, and different accessories to showcase my personality. Holzkern has products that are subtle and subdued or brave and bold, depending on who you are and how you're feeling. Christmas is right around the corner. It's too damn close, damn it. Tell Santa, tell his fat ass to take the year off because Holzkern is everything you and your loved ones would love. Truthfully, man, I think one of the kindest gifts someone can receive is an accessory that is personalized to them. Holzkern products are unique, man, not just because they are made in small quantities, which ensures that every single item meets a high standard of quality and aren't mass-produced pieces of shit that will break and rust in a week, but because all of their products are made from natural materials. This beautiful badass black and blue watch right here, the dial, the face is made from genuine blue sodalite, the case made from maple wood, the ring walnut wood and blue stainless steel. I adore the watch, man. I legit haven't taken it off in a week, probably never will. It will die with me, attached to me, a part of me. I've had the homies ask me about this necklace and ring combo, and they aren't paying me to say that. Holzkern offers free express worldwide shipping from beautiful Vienna, and you can get your product within 2 to 5 days, so order by December 19th and you got the perfect Christmas gift ready to arrive in time. So be proud, man, be unique, and make a lasting impression on someone. Click the link in the description or go to www.holzkern.com/HiTopFilms and use my code HiTop at checkout to save 15% on your holiday gifts site-wide for a limited time. Thanks, guys. Broken trust. Let's be honest here, man. Gotham Knights was the definition of mid. I'm sure a lot of work went into it, and that's no disrespect to any of the storytellers behind it. I'm sure a lot of passion and countless crunch hours went into crafting something everyone believed in, but the sad reality is the audience did not believe. It was a confoundingly goofy move to tell a story where Batman is seemingly dead and his sons, his family have to step in to protect the city in his absence. Profoundly goofy because Gotham Knights was not set in the Arkhamverse, featuring characters that were not the ones the franchise had developed. Who would Rocksteady's Jason Todd become after letting his Arkham Knight-fueled hatred go? How would Tim, Dick, and Barbara respond to Bruce faking his own death? What does Gotham look like with no Bruce Wayne, no Joker, and a monstrous fear-gas creature of the night prowling the streets full-time? I don't know. Nobody does. Because WB Montreal decided or were encouraged to set this in a random universe that nobody had spent 10 years becoming attached to. Everything that was great about Gotham Knights was great because it almost captured the magic of the Arkham series. Everything that did not work, sadly, were the mechanics, the story elements that desperately tried to be different from Arkham. But there was still hope, right? Rocksteady was back, baby. A Suicide Squad game set in the Arkhamverse.
That's life.
Fuck. We all know how that turned out. A fucking tragedy, a massacre of massive disappointment, cynical corporate meddling getting in the way of something that probably started out pure and loving. Rocksteady went from a trusted company that everyone wanted to love to the subject of gamer rage and vitriol. Rocksteady was hit with a Molotov sweat juice cocktail filled with the anger of comic book fans and gamers alike, a flame so large and so smelly I would not be surprised if they wanted to go into hiding. I have not downloaded any of the updates for Suicide Squad kill the Justice League since I made the video. I watched some cutscenes to try and figure out how the Justice League were back, how they would bring back Bruce in what probably will be the last Kevin Conroy performance we will ever hear. And what I saw made me become the Jonker.
Can I get a hand up?
Hey, shouldn't you all be in jail?
As far as I can tell, the Suicide Squad in that game all of a sudden just accept the fact that Flash, Green Lantern, they're back. Batman will be back. Did Brainiac heal them? Are they clones? Alternate universe characters? I have no idea and almost don't want to know. So you let me know, please, you brave souls that continue to play. So why am I recapping the state of DC games? It's simple. Trust with the audience, with me, with you, was as low as my self-esteem. It was as broken as Bruce's fucking spine after Bane hits him with a 1-2. It was as fucked as Barbara's ability to go for a run. It was bad, man. But then, a shred of light at the end of a long fucking tunnel. A classic, beautifully animated CG trailer that hit all of us fans like a wave of nostalgic crack. Remember that first Arkham City teaser? Yeah. That Origins one where he fights Slade? Ooh yeah. This was it. This was the game we have
Nothing to live for.
I feel like everyone felt that collective sigh, that collective chorus of fucks. I felt the same as all of you. And listen, I'm no VR hater. I played all of Resident Evil 7 in VR with my boys after we'd eaten 2 edibles and 4 large pizzas, and I still have nightmares. Hell, I even love the nightmare for Bruce that was Arkham VR. It was a fun tech demo that used the medium to throw the player into the very twisted mind of a Joker-infected Batman. The problem for me wasn't that there was going to be another VR Batman game. The problem for me was that the Arkham Origins sequel that we've all been dreaming about was going to be exclusively a VR game, exclusive to a new $350 console. All the pieces were there though, right? Roger Craig Smith was back, the vibes looked immaculate, the marketing perfectly captured the ominous gothic spirit of the predecessors, camouflage was connecting with the fans in a brilliant way, reassuring them that this was a full-length Arkham game that perfectly fit into the franchise. Everything was so hopeful, so wonderful, except the fact that every single adult who grew up playing the Arkham franchise, every single kid who was just getting into it, would have to spend 300 plus buckaroonies in order to experience that story. And that right there, that killed a lot of people's hope. Exclusivity does not breed trust, it continues to break it, and yeah, that sucks. Even if so many people, myself included, will spend hours talking about how wonderful Arkham Shadow is and how great a job Camouflage did, I don't know if that broken trust can be mended. And let me be clear, that is not the fault of the creative team, that is not the fault of the player, that is the fault of trend-chasing capitalist mentalities that will always be the enemy of art. Whew. Sorry for the rant, I just felt the need to say, I get it, I really do, and to ignore the Oculus-sized elephant in the room and jump right into the brilliance of Shadow's narrative would be disingenuous to the fan base who won't have a choice, desire, or disposable income to experience it. Okay, finally, moving on. Let's be honest here, Batman is not really a character in Arkham Asylum or City, he's just Batman. Let's be real here, Rocksteady's Arkham games are not known for their character development of Bruce Wayne. Batman in Arkham Asylum does not learn anything, does not experience change or growth as a human being. He is Batman, a fully developed, definitive Batman who we are lucky enough to step into the cowl of. But we do not learn new things about Bruce, only this version of the world that surrounds him. And listen, this is not a criticism, rather a reflection of the time, written by the genius Paul Dini. Everything felt authentically perfectly animated series. Asylum was an action-heavy episode of the animated series that you could play, which was fucking game-changing at the time, but you have to remember, Asylum came out at the point where very few mainstream games tend to be character studies, psychological analyses of their protagonists. So of course, despite some fear-gas-induced glimpses into Bruce Wayne's psyche, you're going to get Monster Joker as the third act battle, because Monster Monster Joker exists not for any narrative purpose, but for the fact that the game is somewhat written for boss battles with characters like Monster Joker. Arkham City, it grew up as we did, turning a fairly standard plot into a story about how much Bruce Wayne needs the Joker in order to feel whole. That final boss battle in Asylum evolves into a story about a poisoned hero and his need for an enemy. The ending of City still haunts the recesses of my mind, summing up the entire beauty of their relationship, not just through the haunting dialogue.
Every decision you've ever made ends with death and misery. People die. I stop you. You'll just break out and do it again. Do you want to know something funny? Even after everything you've done, I would have saved you.
But through the biblical imagery that is perfectly utilized. But still, Bruce was a fully developed, albeit dying Batman throughout the entire game. No emotional change or realization until possibly the final moments of the 12-hour story, which was fine. Arkham City was still a masterpiece, and we were operating in a world where it was more important for you to experience the feeling of being Batman than to sit back and break down, analyze why you are Batman. But then,
why do you do what you do?
Arkham Origins comes along and kinda does the exact opposite of Asylum and City. There was nothing new about the gameplay really. In reality, there was a shit ton of pasted assets, and nobody would blame you if you felt like this was an Arkham City DLC when it comes to the environment, the combat, the feel, all that jazz. But Origins was made to be a quick turnaround, giving Rocksteady more time to cook up the next-gen Arkham Knight. So instead of innovating on gameplay, player experience, WB Montreal decided to focus all their creativity towards the story, towards finally giving Arkham's Bruce Wayne a character arc. In a sense, that was perfect, right? You can have the player hop in at a point where Bruce is not all that put together, not in control at all.
Whoa, take it easy, sweetheart.
He's isolating on Christmas Eve. He's such a massive D-bag here, pushing everyone that could offer him support, kindness, and love away because he's so very afraid of it.
Alfred, who do you see when you look at me? The boy whose shoes you used to tie every morning? The teenager you drove to his first date? While you are here every night, I am out there. When the mugger or the thief stops to think twice, that is fear. That is what I am. I am the reason the criminals breathe easier when the sun rises. So no, Alfred, I am not in over my head.
Always the badass, yes, but a badass who has so much to learn, and Origins took its time, dedicated itself to showing you crucial, defining character moments. People hated the Joker twist. They were like, oh no, it's the Joker, he's the main bad guy again. Well, fuck that, because this was, and kinda still is, some of the most engrossing character writing for the Joker.
Isn't it funny how one little encounter can cleave off little pieces of your past, deform your memories and persona until you rethink your whole identity? And as you realize how foolish it all is, your laughter reverberates off the walls of your own emptiness.
Perfectly in sync with who he will become, yet vulnerable and expressive in a way that only youth provides. Both Bruce and Joker were explored with a nuance and a care that we hadn't seen in the franchise before. And the way I looked at it, Arkham Shadow had one of two ways to go. Option one, make a badass VR game that does the same thing Asylum and City did, that captures the rhythm of the free-flow combat, the thrill of the Predator missions, and the feeling of being Batman, and translate that to a new medium. Or option two, follow in the footsteps of Origins and tell a story about a young Batman learning the compassion and empathy needed for him to grow into the full-fledged hero and not a young man with a trust fund and too much anger. Use the medium of VR to tell the most emotionally impactful Arkham story because the barrier between character and player is as thin as an eyeglass. Somehow, by golly fucking gee, they did both. You are Batman. As I say with all my game videos, I'm no game reviewer. Hell, I'm just a dickhead fuckknuckle who wishes to express his passion, but the design here is fucking brilliant. I need a new adjective. Brilliant, beautiful, fuck me. How many times have I said that shit in a video? One sec. The design here is fucking A1. Fuck me. Point is, not only does camouflage capture the nostalgia of playing Arkham Asylum back in the day, not only do you want to explore every single room, read every single document, letter, poster, the Art Deco design feels like they took the maps and the textures from Asylum and City and brought in an all new sense of depth to them. So many times, like a freakish amount, I found myself literally frozen in awe, just gracefully looking, observing as Batman would at the piles of trash, the decay, the rotting flesh of his hellfire love, his Gotham. I called every phone number I found. I spent way too long trying to monkey bar these pipes just to reach a Rat King radio, because Batman would collect all the evidence. Batman would observe the world in such a neurotic and obsessive way. And the designers, the developers reward you for thinking that way. The detail, the deco, the faithful recreations and additions to iconic Arkham locations, it's perfect, man. But more importantly, the artists behind Shadow make you feel what it's like to see the world of Gotham through the lens of a broken child who also happens to be an obsessive genius detective. A broken child with way too much training and an unstoppable ability to take down, harm, maim, and break everyone in his way. You are dropped in, literally without much context, midway through a case, find the Rat King, save Gotham, stop the uprising. Classic plot stuff that's not trying to change the game, and that's the point. The first act almost serves as a showcase of what camouflage knows we want, what you think you want. You are a powerful Batman. You are going to break the bones of everyone in your way to save the day. You will meet Jim on his smoke break. You will get an update on the case. You will track down the man who knows information. You will interrogate him. You will pound on the faceless criminals who are tearing your city apart. And there's something so terrifying amidst the empowering nature of being Batman. The moments where you've lost control, you're in too deep with the monstrous broken bat. The way you dismiss a young orphan, Dick Grayson, throw him through a wall, not hearing his pleas for empathy for a cause that would make sense to any orphan not born with a silver spoon.
I don't care what hole you crawled out of, Rat. Listen to me carefully.
The way you pound on people with families who beg you for mercy, for understanding. As a player, you want that dopamine hit. You want to keep on punching. As Batman, as Bruce, you need something to lash out at.
You ruin everything.
Maybe you aren't questioning it. I'm sure Bruce isn't, even with his surrogate father yelling in his ear that someone might die if he doesn't calm down. Even if you start to feel out of control, it does not fully affect Bruce until you see the way Leslie Tompkins looks at you. I love the addition of Leslie Tompkins. I love any Batman story that takes the time to develop her, to flesh her out. And the way she looks at you here in her first moments of the game, the way she hesitates in assuring you not to be angry, not to be rageful, but to be kind, to be good.
Bruce, don't be angry. Be safe.
The way she almost views you as monstrous, even with so much love in her eyes, there is a hint of fear, of disappointment, of regret. What have I let this boy become? But you are Batman. You do not have time to dwell in this emotion, this guilt, perhaps the doubt you are feeling. You must push forward, push on to save Harvey, push on to find the Rat King. The only thing, as it always is, always will be, that shakes us, Bruce, out of his bat state of mind is when Shrike, the head honcho of this attack, does not feel fear when you are hanging him from a roof.
I'm not putting you in Blackgate.
And put me in the ground, 'cause I got nothing left.
He does not feel anything but hopeless. I was born a rat in this life, he says. Maybe I'll fly in the next.
Maybe I'll be something different in the next.
Right before he decides to end his own life.
No!
On this night, Batman did not save anyone. You did not save anyone by living out the power fantasy you only have played into the cycle of systemic oppression and divide that Gotham has always had.
Shuffled around a number of youth crisis centers before they were all shut down due to budgetary constraints. Shrike only became Shrike after Blackgate radicalized him.
And that's when Arkham Shadow really kicks in. That's when the title card hits. That's when it all becomes clear.
I can't protect Gotham City like this. I became a symbol to fight crime, but I don't understand those who commit it. I have to become one of them.
If Origins was about Bruce learning to trust others in his mission, learning to allow help and compassion into his heart, Arkham Shadow is a game, a story about Bruce Wayne learning empathy for the nobodies, the rats, the forgotten. And in order to do that, in order to understand, to grow Batman Bruce, you must become Matches Malone. And as Matches, you are dropped in, an animal out of their element, and through every choice you are forced to interact with an environment you fear the most. The criminals, the mission falls second fiddle to trying to understand the why. Why do these rats feel so abandoned by Gotham? How corrupt is the prison system? Questions Bruce has definitely asked himself but was far too stubborn and single-minded to engage with. From your first moments behind bars, you see how fascist and fucked Blackgate is. You see the brutality of the guards, the thrill they get from hurting the restrained and the powerless. As Matches, you see firsthand where Batman sends the bad guys to go. As Matches, you see how many similarities the angry, abusive Tiger Guards share with the identity you wear. I love how in character Bruce is. He even thinks to himself in the Matches voice. Even when he's alone in his cell, he refuses to break character.
I can head to the Batcave after lights out.
It's that kind of detail that shows how much camouflage gets the unhinged nature of Bruce and how much they want you to share that headspace with him. And the entire idea of sending yourself to jail to find the Rat King, to understand the philosophy of criminals, is so very Bruce Wayne. The fact that you can leave your cell at any time, call your butler at any time, and have an entire Batcave built in the underground caves is so very Batman. You're not actually abandoned by the system. You're not actually having your dignity and freedom taken away. You're pretending to. You're acting the part of a prisoner, not actually feeling anything close to what they must feel. And that's not a knock against the game. That's exactly what Bruce Wayne would do, how he thinks. He would never allow himself to feel powerless, imprisoned. Yet, even if all this is a guise, a classic Batman plan to find the big bad through the Matches Malone persona, we and Bruce learn, see that the Faceless aren't voiceless anymore. One of the greatest strokes of genius Arkham Shadow has up its gauntlet is taking the goofy goons we pounded on over the years, the skin-headed, it's the freaking bat goobers, and putting Bruce in a story, putting the player in a place where those NPCs are no longer nameless. As Matches Malone, you can eavesdrop on gang conversations about illegal schemes to get free, and yet you can also listen to Zorowski and Meals passionately discussing the stew Meals is making for dinner, the bangin' cheesecake he made last night with mayo. You can hear Danner Bring and Sujimoto argue about the ruckus they've been hearing at night, paranoid about what's been happening during lights out. Yet you can also talk to Walker, listen to his excited ranting about having your back. Even if he ain't a fighter, he'll bust out some fire dance moves. You can witness Arnold Wesker's full descent into madness, the birth of his infatuation with Woody, the doll, the totem that will later become Scarface. You can watch as he latches on like a vulnerable child to an object that makes him feel seen, that gives him a voice. You can hear and you can smile at the small joys these inmates hold on to in order to have hope, and you can witness and feel how broken and hopeless so many of them are, how inhumane they are made to feel. All the goons you used to watch with a predator-like joy while they talk about how scared they are of you, how much they fear the Batman. As Matches, you are no longer above them in the streets. Now you are with them while they are forced to shit and shower, constantly watched, constantly exposed. So many times while in Blackgate, I found myself wanting to intervene, to stop the abuse, to make a change, to pound on the Tiger Guards and corrupt cops who use their power to hurt, not to help. And that's a fascinating exercise, switching the idea of the enemy, of the threat right before your eyes, changing your perspective as Bruce's worldview begins to shift. Those once nameless NPCs, they are starting to have a face, a voice, some identity. It's not so black and white anymore. The once nameless, they are the ones that save the Batman's life. At the end of the game, Bruce is actually about to die. Bolton, the juiced up tiny dickhead of security that you get to beat senseless, has you in a gas chamber. You're about to take that last breath. You're about to die as the thing you've dedicated your life to fighting. And it ain't Alfred, Gordon, or some piece of bat tech that saves you. It's the rats, the same ones that pleaded, begged for some kind of mercy, that are now risking their lives to save yours.
You saved my life.
You would have done the same for us.
Sure, they might think you're their prophet, their rat king, but still, it entirely repaints Bruce's view of the superstitious, the cowardly, redefines our idea of evil. And nothing in this game represents this more than a man named Joe. We've seen the main thematic concept behind Arkham Shadow played out before, again and again. Vengeance is not justice. We've seen various versions of Bruce Wayne learn that time and time again.
What will vengeance solve?
You're not talking about justice, you're talking about revenge.
Sometimes they're the same. Vengeance won't change the past.
But I'm not sure we've ever been able to see it through this lens. Maybe it's the VR element, maybe it's the fact that we are feeling that grand lesson alongside in the eyes of Bruce. Or perhaps it's because, to me, the most groundbreaking idea this game has, the most fresh concept, most refreshing remix of the Batman mythos I've seen in a long fucking time, is the fact that if you remove all the action, all the mechanics, you are left with such a raw narrative concept. A question that is as simple as it is brilliant. What if Bruce Wayne unknowingly befriended and felt a kinship with his ultimate evil? What if he connected to and unknowingly gained compassion for the man who killed his parents? If you give evil a face, suddenly apathy becomes harder, a moral code becomes trickier. Throughout the Arkham franchise, Bruce dreams of his parents' killer, a nightmarish archetype, his voice gravelly, his tattoo-covered face monstrous.
You see that, kid? That's what happens when you try to be a hero.
And maybe to a 10-year-old boy, it was. Of course, the monster's chillish presence is almost inhuman. That memory, that dream has defined Bruce's worldview, separating any kind of humanity from inhumane acts of injustice. What happens when you not only shake that worldview, but redefine it entirely? What happens when, unknown to those who did not guess it, unknown to Bruce, you get those pieces of humanity in every interaction, every conversation with Chill? What happens when you ask him about his life and you can tell that he's lived one full of torment and regret?
I'd give anything to unload the rest of what I got up here.
What happens when you realize that night in the alley wasn't personal, it wasn't a targeted hit, it wasn't meant to hurt you, define you. It was only a result of years of oppression, years of being scared, of being lost. What happens when you watch the monster squirm uncomfortably in his seat when Bruce tells of his parents being gunned down?
My parents were both murdered in front of me when I was a kid. I saw it. I couldn't stop it. I froze.
Only for the man to burst out a guttural, trauma-fueled response.
Parents would fight all the time. They'd rage at each other and at me. I called it prize fighting because I always got the belt. 7 years old, couldn't defend myself. I did some awful things over the years to get back at them.
This is a Batman experience like no other. I love how they leave it up to the player, to you and to me, to decide how much we want to connect with Chill. Do you wish to talk to him, hear about his life and history? Do you want to know about his successful brother who has never visited him? Do you want to witness how his experiences have given him an empathy for the rats terrorizing the city, how he understands what it's like to be hung out to dry with no compassion?
Do you feel bad for him?
These kids didn't pick their zip code. Politicians failed them. If their parents didn't beat them, cops did. They were hung out to dry at an early age. I can relate.
Or is Batman's mission more important? Is getting to the next bit of action, the next act of violence, more integral to your Batman experience? In a way, the optional dialogue choices are only a reflection of how you feel about Batman. What you prioritize as a player is indicative of what Bruce values more, the thrill of violence or a need to understand. Arkham Shadow's goal is to humanize the criminal element. Even if Bruce is fully committed to his performance as Matches, you can tell that the man underneath the Malone persona is feeling some kind of compassion, connection to the monster he's had in his head his whole life. I love that that supposed monster gives Matches, gives you his previously not for sale read a far poster once you return from solitary confinement. His way of saying, I care, kid. A profound story moment from a man who is anything but profound. He's never going to give you a hug, write you a meaningful letter. His life hasn't had meaning since he was locked up. He's never felt any kind of love in a way that would teach him to give it, but his poster of a beautiful dame is about as sincere as he can get, and there's such a beauty in that. By the end of Arkham Shadow, Chill is now Joe. A biblical monstrous figure in the history of Batman is now simply a man. A sad, regretful old man who has a bum leg and soulful eyes that carry the weight of all his choices. And once Joe figures out that that night that's haunted him all these years, the nightmare he's been stuck in alongside Bruce, has created the Batman, he looks in horror, just as we do.
I'm so sorry.
He tells Harvey to shoot him. He'd rather die and escape that nightmare. Finally, maybe he can face whatever penance he believes waits for him in death.
Kill me! Do it! Shut up! It's okay! It's okay!
Don't
shut up!
Don't do this!
In his mind, nobody cares enough to save him. He's not worth their time or compassion. He's not worth fighting for. There is no forgiveness for what he's done.
Needed money. Didn't mean to hurt anybody. But you get desperate. Pearls on the pavement. And right after, I noticed the kid there. God, he looked at me like I'll never forget. Just a kid. But those eyes, in my dreams every night, burning with wrath. You can never know it was me. I've had 2 decades to think. I can't tell anybody.
Except that's not true. That kid does now know. That kid is faced with his maker, and that same kid is willing to take off his mask, show his face.
This is not what Bruce wants.
How would you know
Because
what he wants?
Harvey! Because
his final line to Joe is telling him to leave, to find safety.
Joe, just get the hell out of here.
Bruce is filled with confusion, shock, as anyone would be. Yet, underneath that is clear compassion. No part of Bruce, of the player, wants this man to be the ultimate evil. We almost cannot believe he was once capable of such horrendous horror. Do we forgive him? Maybe that's up to Bruce, up to you, to make that choice for yourself. Dude, like, fuck me, dude. I love that so much. I love it. I love the details they give Joe, how he reads the Count of Monte Cristo again and again. The irony of that, how he tells Batman not to be violent, to get by, to get what you need.
I told you not to get rough with them.
Yeah, well, I had no choice.
We always have a choice, kid.
I love how, before the reveal in a fear-gas-induced state, the voice of your parents' killer is the voice of you in your dreams, your nightmare. You are a part of the reason the monster pulled the trigger.
Hand it over! Easy, friend. Do I look like your friend? Give me the pearls, too.
I love this revelation, this undressing of Joe Chill, and how it ties together so beautifully with how they transform Harvey. How they retroactively make the Harvey and Bruce relationship so defining to the Arkham franchise, not just by showing us the origin of Two-Face, but by telling a story about brothers defined by shadow.
I wish I was dead. I'm a freak because of you.
That wasn't my fault.
You're the man who put that acid-throwing bastard in the dock. You said we'd save Gotham.
I'm sorry, Harvey.
I love you, brother.
I love you too.
Okay. Okay. Knock it off.